The truth is out there.
It is one of the world's greatest mysteries, Scotland's legendary Loch Ness Monster. So does the lake creature actually exist? Well, if you ask one man, he'll tell you it is in fact no myth.
Every day it's flaunted in front of your face.
Hundreds of people in the valley say they are hearing voices in their heads.
You just choose to ignore it.
Belief can be a powerful force. No one knows that better than the people who are sure they've seen Bigfoot.
Real accounts.
He says he knows who's playing mind games.
Rogue government officials that are sponsoring this, also corrupt business officials, and private citizens.
From real people.
Hundreds of people turned out tonight for the unveiling of a very controversial statue.
Yeah, it really is. The Satanic Temple of Detroit revealed the 1-ton bronze statue.
It's time for you to take a swim.
I'm just excited to see my Lord and Savior Baphomet represented in such glorious Italian stone. I do hope his eyes gaze upon me, and that my allegiance is recognized.
In the dark waters.
The Dark Waters channel is for entertainment purposes only. Although information in these stories can be traced back to relevant and true sources, Dark Waters strongly discourages its viewers, listeners, and subscribers from visiting the site of incidents and encounters discussed or revealed on the show. In other words, we will not be held responsible if you are attacked by a Dogman, molested by a Bigfoot, bitten by vampires, chased by chupacabras, abducted by aliens, accosted by the Men in Black, investigated or arrested by the local law enforcement, CIA, FBI, NSA, EPA, BLM, or another alphabet group, whether on U.S. soil or abroad. Thank you for tuning in, and enjoy the show.
Mardi Gras on Bourbon Street is not just wild and crazy. It's utterly insane. And no, this story is not about the female slave ghost that lives in my Bourbon Street condo. This story is a warning to those of you who visit our city and believe you can abandon all cares and concerns. That you can come to New Orleans and forget that you're an adult. And that because you're drunk, the laws and rules do not apply to you. This year, Mardi Gras 2017, we started off with a party as we always do. It was Saturday night and me and my crew were at the condo on Bourbon Street drinking and having a party. And Jay, as you already know, the rules are everyone is allowed to introduce one new person to the group every 3 years. With your black ass being absent from the party and not responding to text messages, we were at a loss for intel on the newest inductee to our group, a man who introduced himself to me as Fat Jesus. Fat Jesus. Yep, I said that. He starts off by drinking an entire bottle of vodka. I'm standing there watching him do this. Drinking vodka straight out of the bottle. Strange, yeah, but nothing I would consider out of the way for one of our parties. Now, before I move on, let me paint a picture of this condo for you. You enter our condo through a gate off Bourbon Street. The walls surrounding it are made of concrete. Top of these walls are metal spikes and broken glass. This was done because on Bourbon Street, drunk people will jump your walls and break into your house. It's kind of a safety measure. Once in the gate, to your left is an open courtyard, and directly in front of you are a set of steps. Up those same steps and make a right, you enter into our 2-bedroom condo. Now walking in the door, to the left is the first bedroom. Beyond that is the bathroom, and up ahead to the left is the kitchen. Just to the right of the kitchen on the other side of the hallway is the second bedroom. If you keep walking straight, if you keep walking forward, it's the living room with tables and chairs and the sofas, TVs, and our stripper pole on the right. From there, you can walk out onto the balcony that wraps around directly above Bourbon Street. Back to the story. So Fat Jesus is there getting drunk. It's about 40 people in the condo. Some drinking, some smoking, just a party. You know how it is. So of course, the ladies start dancing on the stripper pole, and I joined them as usual. It's kind of distracted me for a little while. But then I noticed that Fat Jesus was missing. So I head out to the balcony, and guess what? Jesus is outside flashing people his penis on the balcony. I'm like, what the fuck? This cat is wild. Now, wild, yes, but not something that we've never done ourselves. So I'm still not tripping. That's when I figured, hey, I really need to have a conversation with this guy. So I start talking to Fat Jesus, and he tells me he just ordered 2 girls from Backpage to come to the condo. Normally, I would not have a problem with that, because I choose the women from Backpage. But in this case, he showed me the pictures of these 2 women, and they were big as fuck. I mean hungry hippo big. So 20 minutes later, and walked these 2 big-ass, ghetto, tattooed white prostitutes. Prostitution, I have no problem with. Big girls, I have no problem with. But these chicks, the first thing they did was raid our refrigerator. Then the biggest one, decided she was going to go out on the balcony, which, as you already know, the rail is real flimsy. So now we got a 280-pound prostitute leaning on this flimsy-ass rail, flashing people on Bourbon Street. And you guessed it, the wooden rail breaks. Some people going to think this shit is funny, but it's not. Now I find myself holding this big bitch by her jeans, trying to keep her fat ass from falling to her death. And this asshole, Fat Jesus, is laughing. He thinks the whole situation is funny. And if she would have fell and died, I don't know how the hell I was going to explain all the drugs and everything else in my condo to the police. So I get this big heifer back on the balcony, prepare to throw them out. On the way out of the door, Fat Jesus threatens me. On the way out, Fat Jesus threatens me. Talking big shit. How he gonna whoop my ass and do this and do that. And then he pushes Timmy into the wall. Yeah, Tampa Timmy. Shit gets out of hand real quick. Fat Jesus gets his ass whooped all the way down the steps, out of the gate, and into the street, which draws attention of the police. So now I find myself high as fuck, standing in the middle of Bourbon Street, trying to explain to the cops that we were throwing this man out of our condo. Out of the corner of my eye, down comes running the other fat stripper. One breast hanging out of her shirt, she's sweating, her eyes is bucked all big, she's clearly high out of her mind. And later I found out she smoked some of the wrong shit. Luckily, your boy CJ was there. He knew the cop, and Timmy calmed down and went back upstairs. And that's how Mardi Gras started. And you missed all of it, because you stayed inside like a little bitch. Mardi Gras has always been a joyful event for me and my family. As a kid, I remember hanging out on Magazine Street with my parents and catching parades, then walking a few blocks back home. And as a young adult, my friends and I would often leave our parents to walk around and mingle with other girls from the neighborhood. The day these events happened, we were out at one of the night parades. My best friend and I decided to walk down to the corner of Magazine and Napoleon Avenue. We got there, the area was jam-packed with people watching the parade. And now that we were away from our parents, I literally let down my hair and started having fun. We'd been out there about 20 minutes or so, and I noticed a man staring at me from the crowd across the street. Now, if you're a woman, you know what I'm talking about. That sensation of a man staring at you, looking at you like you're a piece of meat. Well, that's what it was. His eyes were locked on me, and I immediately felt like he was a creeper. But minutes later, a float passed and I lost track of him. Honestly, I got distracted trying to catch some of the big Mardi Gras beads. Things seemed fine. And when the parade got to float number 32, a friend and I decided it was best that we head back to the area where our parents were. When we were walking back, I thought I caught a glimpse of him on the same side of the street as us, but I wasn't sure. But as we moved away from that crowd, I was certain that this was the same guy following us. He moved slowly, trying his best to parallel us, stay out of sight. We were finally forced to make a right turn and walk the 3 blocks back to the area where my parents' house was. I noticed him for sure. And behind him was this tall black man. Now, if you ever been to Mardi Gras, you understand that crowds of people tend to create these choke points. When people stand around and bunch up talking. Well, we got to one of those areas. We were trying to squeeze past some Tulane college students when he tapped me on my shoulder and said, and said, "Hey, where you guys headed?" My reply was short and to the point. "I'm 16. Why do you care where I'm heading?" Thinking that this creeper would realize that I was underage and going about his business. But nope, he just kept talking, so we kept walking. About a block later, we arrived at this area of sidewalk. On the left was this tall wooden fence. On the right were these kind of tall bushes, about 5.5 to 6 feet tall. This area seemed isolated. Now, people in the streets really couldn't see what was behind the bushes. And as we passed through that area, he grabbed my arm and started pulling me towards him. And just as he was pulling, I saw this black man behind him whack him across the head. Then this guy commenced to kicking and beating the crap out of him. Turns out that the guy had approached his 13-year-old daughter at the parade route, and he was following him just to whoop his ass. When the police arrived, which was very fast, all they saw was a black guy beating the shit out of a white guy. They immediately put the black man, whose name I learned later was Keith, in handcuffs. And when I actually explained to the officers that Keith had saved me from this guy who was trying to assault me, they let him go and arrested the other guy. But not before slamming his face into the hood of the car and saying, "This is Mardi Gras. People out here trying to have fun and you fucking with their little kids? We got something for you." A few minutes later, I was back in the area where my parents were. I never told them what happened. But when I looked up that man Keith, who came to my defense, turns out he was a pretty powerful guy. I don't think he cared about his reputation that day, though.